Hello, everybody. It is Friday, March 4th, 2016. I'm Corey Stolzenbach with a great guest joining me right now. He was born in Schenectady, New York, later became a New Englander, and he's known for his terrific 1985 season with the Cardinals. He started 1-7, had a 3.74 ERA. He finished 20-1 with a 1.37 ERA, 1.93 on the season. He is the last pitcher to throw double-digit shutouts in a season. He went to the 1985 and 1987 World Series with the Cardinals and won the World Series with the Dodgers in 1988. He is John Tudor. And John, I know that you also played hockey in high school. What led you to choose to play our national pastime?
Well, I was a career JV player in high school as far as hockey goes. I played soccer in high school. I played baseball in high school. So it just that was what you did back then. Athletes played three sports, and I just happened to get lucky enough to continue to play baseball and get the opportunity to play.
I know you're still a big hockey fan.
Right.
So, but you had your first taste of fame, I think, in the Boston Globe in 1966 when you played first base in Little League. So, how did the transition?
Really? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of caught by surprise with your 1966. Go ahead.
Well, how did the transition come over for you playing first base in Little League to being a pitcher?
Well, I was a better first baseman in Little League and really in Babe Ruth League. I was first baseman in All-Star team in Babe Ruth League too. I didn't pitch there either, but I actually in reality didn't pitch that much in high school, and was I guess the proverbial late bloomer as far as it went. But that's pretty much it. I played first base and pitched when I was in junior college, and just ended up being a pitcher.
I know that you didn't really attend a major school. You went to North Shore Community College, then Georgia Southern, where you were a criminal justice major. What do you think was the biggest adversity you had to overcome in your amateur career?
In my amateur career, gosh, I had no idea, to be honest with you. I think just the one thing that I had was stick-to-itiveness, if you want to coin a phrase. Like I said, I didn't start a game until my senior year in high school, and even then, I think I only started 3 games my senior year in high school. So, I just was someone that just continued to. I loved to play the game and just continued to play, and got a little bit bigger and got a little bit better, and got the opportunity to continue to play. Just the right place at the right time.
What influenced your decision to sign with the Red Sox in the third round of the 1976 January secondary draft, but you chose not to sign in the Mets draft and you in the 21st round of the 1975 MLB draft?
Nothing in particular, really. I just at that point I was when I was drafted by the Mets, I was going to the Cape to play, and I was actually going there with a good friend of mine to play, and I don't know, just something about maybe wanting to go back to school. And then when the Red Sox contacted me over the Christmas holidays and told me they were thinking about drafting me in the January draft, I figured that this might be my last chance. If I don't do this now, I might not get another chance. So I decided to do it.
That good friend, the Cape Cod League, Dave Betancourt?
Yes.
We'll talk more about him later. So, you threw a no-hitter in Double-A in June 1977, very efficient, 61 pitches, lasted 80 minutes. What do you remember about that game?
Well, it was only a 7-inning game to start with, so the efficiency is not quite as impressive as it might have been if it was a 9-inning game. But I don't remember much about it, to be honest with you. It was a long time ago.
Very well, then. I know you were in AAA Pawtucket, and Johnny Padres is known for his brilliance against the Yankees in the 1955 World Series for Brooklyn, but he was also your pitching coach. And he said, and I quote to the people, that he doesn't have a gut in his body, talking about you. Why do you think that you and Johnny Padres didn't mesh so well?
Johnny wasn't the only one that said that during those time frames. I don't know why. Johnny was not actually was the pitching coach in the big leagues when I got there. In the minor leagues, he was kind of a roving guy. He'd come in and spend time with with some of the guys. I wasn't one of the guys he really spent much time with, but Johnny was a great pitcher, and that's as far as I'll go with that.
But he did teach you a changeup, though.
No, he actually didn't. It's just something I kind of learned along the way, and continued to get better with it. I came to the big leagues as a power pitcher. I was throwing in the low 90s, and so I was probably throwing 75% fastballs back in those days, and then I developed a changeup and a little bit of a breaking ball, and things just got a little bit easier.
I do stand corrected on that then. I know that you are known to be very stoic as a pitcher with your personality and being described as a loner type. What do you think shaped that kind of personality with you, with your environment? What do you think it was?
I have no idea. My dad was kind of that way. I don't consider myself to be a loner by any stretch. I'm not easily excited. And I don't get down easily. So I think I kind of have that middle of the road personality, and it's served me pretty well for the most part. And it's just the way I am. I have no idea what the reasoning for it is.
When you finally make your debut in 1979, how nervous were you your first two times out? You didn't get your first win until you faced Detroit September 21st that year. So how nervous were you the first few times you came out to the mound?
Well, I don't remember the second time. The first time I was nervous going out to the bullpen. When I come out of the dugout and started out to the bullpen at Fenway, I got out to the bullpen gates there, and with the bleachers in Fenway are out behind the bullpens, and a lot of my friends were kind of lining the rail out there in the bleachers, and so that kind of increased the nervousness a little bit. But I didn't pitch particularly well in those first couple of games, and ended up getting my first win, and I think, if I remember correctly, a rain-shortened game against Detroit.
Well, the line here, it says, was 7 innings pitched. You allowed 6 hits, 1 run, and 4 strikeouts. So what did it mean to you to finally get that first win and be over the hump?
Well, it's a long way from over the hump, but the first win is always nice. To get get that one under your belt is always a good thing. But it was a pretty good hill to climb, or mountain to climb, even from there. I was a long ways from over the hump at that point.
But still, you did get the monkey off your back, and finally your first win in that sense, at least.
Right. Yeah. It was absolutely nice to get that, because I was at the point right there where you never know which game is going to be your last one, or which opportunity is going to be your last one. That was a late August call up, and just kind of battling my way through it.
I know you had pitched in the Dominican League also. How did that help your development?
I think it helped a little bit. I think it helped my. I think it raised my stock a little bit with the Red Sox when because the second time I did it was after the strike season in '81, I believe, and I hadn't had a very good year, and so I went back to Dominican and had a pretty good year down there, and I think that probably raised my stock back up a little bit to maybe where it had been before. I'd had a bad year in '81, and so from that standpoint, it was good experience.
But you did have a nice year in 1980. So what do you think led to that regression?
Who knows? It's baseball. Year to year. Sometimes they fall, sometimes they don't. It's sometimes you make the pitches, sometimes you don't. It's just I haven't got the faintest idea what led from one year to the other. Same as I don't have any idea what led from 84 to 85. Well, I do that. That would have been just the team defense, but.
Well, you did have a very good game against Toronto in 1983 when you were at the Red Sox. You pitched 8 strikeouts and a one-hitter against them, and Dave Collins got the only hit in the bottom of the 4th. What do you remember about that game, if anything at all? That was your first of 2 career one-hitters. You also pitched one against the Cubs in 1985.
Yeah, I mean, really the only thing I remember about that game is Dave got a hit, I want to say fairly early in the game, like maybe the 4th or 5th inning, ground ball between short and third. And so there was never really a thought of a no-hitter in my mind. It's not like I took it, into the 8th inning or something like that. And the Cubs game was similar. And Leon Durham got a base hit a ground ball between first and second. And that, again, was probably like the 3rd or 4th inning.
Afterwards, you were traded to Pittsburgh from Mike Easler. What do you think was the toughest part about leaving that area?
Well, I never actually left the area. I mean, I still live there. So it's not like I had to move away from home. I mean, I think the first time you trade it, it's always an interesting time because you're not quite sure. Is this because I wasn't wanted here, or because somebody wanted me there, or in all reality, probably a little bit of both. But it turned out to be a good move for me. I got over to Pittsburgh got into a rotation with 4 other guys that kind of got out there and got the job done every night, and you didn't want to be the weak link. We had a team that wasn't very good. We struggled offensively and we struggled defensively. So you really kind of had to learn how to pitch and how to kind of keep runs from scoring, because if you gave up a couple of runs, you were pretty much guaranteed to lose. So it was a good learning. It was a good learning time for me, and I think the adjustment to the National League, was a good one for me as well.
Yeah, the 1984 season, the Pirates were 75-87, which isn't the worst for a last-place team, but still a last-place team nonetheless. You were 12-11 with a 3.27 ERA, and you guys had a really good rotation. There was you, Rick Rhoden, John Candelaria, Laurie McWilliams, but the Pirates also scored 615 runs. 9 of your 11 losses, they scored 2 runs or less. And you allowed 1 or no earned runs in 11 starts that year. So my question to you is that the game has really changed and evolved since you last pitched. And so the way that we see and judge pitchers is not so much by wins and losses anymore. Where do you stand on that, on wins and losses defining a hurler?
Well, I don't know. How do you think they judge pitchers?
Well, I think that if somebody wins a lot of games, it's going to be very high profile. I know that Bob Welch won the Cy Young in 1990 with a 27-6 record, but some critics think that Roger Clemens should have won it instead. And then in 1989, Storm Davis won 19 games for Oakland, but he had an ERA over 4.
Yeah, and Storm, I think, only pitched about 160 innings too. I mean, the game certainly has changed. The amount of innings pitched by your top of the rotation starters has decreased significantly. Obviously the money has changed in the game, and I think the money is a factor into the amount of work that these guys get. I don't think you see starting even your number 1 starters. I don't think you see them making 34, 35, 36 starts anymore, or throwing 270 innings. A big year now and it's just the way it is if you throw 220 innings, you've thrown a ton of innings in the big leagues nowadays. And so from that standpoint, it's changed. I don't see judging starting pitching less by wins than anything else. I mean, I think the wins are still a very important factor in it. If you get a guy that wins 25 games and has a 4.5 or a 5 ERA, I think he's still considered to be pretty good.
But certainly also must have a good offense behind him, though.
Oh, certainly. I mean, but that comes with winning 25 games. I mean, you don't see guys put those kind of wins up, like Carlton did with the Phillies that one year, on a really bad team. You generally have to have a pretty darn good team behind you to win those kinds of games.
Yeah, you're talking about
that amount of games,
You're talking about 1972 when Steve Carlton was 27-10. The Phillies only won 59 games that year.
Right.
So, I think there was speculation that you were going to be a reliever in Pittsburgh, but how'd you manage to get into the rotation then?
As far as I know, that was not the case. As far as I went there as a starter, I was a starter out of spring training. I don't know where that information comes from, but it's news to me.
It was one of the stories that I read up on you, but if that's not true, then forgive me, just going off of something that I read.
Yeah, I have no idea. I've never heard it before. So, like I said, I was a starter from day one in spring training. So I don't know. If Chuck had other plans for me other than that, he never voiced them to me.
You had mentioned in spring training 1985, when you were traded to the Cardinals for George Hendrick, that you had to work harder in Pittsburgh in 1984 because of the situation that happened there. Do you think that same approach carried over when you were traded to the Redbirds?
Run that by me one more time?
Yes, I know that you had said in spring training 1985 in an interview that you had to work harder in Pittsburgh in 1984. Do you think that you had to take that same approach when you were traded to the Redbirds?
I don't really understand. I don't remember making any kind of a comment like that. If I did, it was in response to a specific question. I mean, we work hard all the time when we're out there. I mean, it's never easy. It's sometimes it looks easier than it does other times. But I mean, we always have to put the time in, always have to put the work in. So I don't really understand the context of the question or what I was answering that, what the question I was answering.
Very well, then. I know that when you were in St. Louis, there was that rocky starts. You were 1-7, 3.74 ERA. But here is something that's very interesting, and this goes back to what we discussed as far as wins and losses defining pitchers, is that Joaquin Andujar was 6-1 with a 3.44 ERA after beating San Diego, and you were 1-6 with a 3.44 ERA after losing to Houston. So certainly that has to say something, doesn't it?
I don't know. Maybe that Joaquin was in the right spot in the rotation, or was making the right pitches at the right time to get himself out of spot. I don't know. In either case, you wouldn't think that the 3.44. I think that's what you just said, anyways. Would warrant a 1-6 record, but I guess it kind of depends on when you're giving up the runs, and I mean, I had a couple of funky things happen that cost me games, but I can't honestly say I was pitching good during that time frame. So I think I maybe got what I deserved at that time.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, there was some tough luck, but we talked about Dave Betancourt earlier, and now he was the guy that you played with in Cape Cod, and he helped you turn around your 1985 season because it had to do with the way you were releasing the ball. I know that you were hesitating in Boston and Pittsburgh when you lifted up your right leg at the highest point, but then you weren't hesitating at first in St. Louis. So what I want to know is, how did you become more aware to hesitate for that split second, and what else you worked on besides your delivery?
How did I become aware of it?
Yeah, I guess more aware, so that way you could be able to hesitate and throw the batter off for like a split second when you're lifting your right leg at the highest point.
Yeah, I mean, it's got nothing to do with throwing the batter off. It's just part of the timing mechanism and the rhythm that pitchers get into. The slight pause at the top of my delivery there allows everything else to kind of catch up, and it gives you the ability to repeat your delivery to get technical with you a little bit, And that's really the thing that Dave pointed out to me, that I didn't have that slight little pause in my transition from up to down, and that plus who knows what else kind of turned things around.
Well, what else did you work on besides your delivery?
we work on all different kinds of things during the course of a season. I mean, there's no one specific thing. I mean, it's we had, like I said, we had a pretty good team. So once I got maybe a little bit more fine tuned with my command through that one little mechanical thing that maybe allowed me to have the hitters not to square the ball up quite so well at the other end.
And what was the rhythm or groove that you were feeling when you had those 3 straight shutouts to begin September? Like, what were you kind of feeling out there on the mound?
You know what? When things are going good, you're not feeling anything. You're just going out there and trying to do what you do. You don't really think that much when things are going good. It's when things start to go bad that you have to think. And the whole I guess thought process, for lack of a better term, is that you don't really want to think. You want to just kind of allow your natural ability to make things happen, and which is what I did. And I tried to make hitters put the ball in play, and if I made hitters put the ball in play, I had a pretty good chance someone out there was going to catch it. And and that's what happened.
Your 1985 season was incredible. It was one for the ages. And the sad part is that you picked the wrong season to have those kind of numbers because you were facing Dwight Gooden, who was 24-4 with a 1.53 ERA. And you two met September 11th that year at Shea Stadium. And that day was remembered for when Pete Rose hit 41.92, and he broke Ty Cobb's all-time hit record. But that was quite a pitcher's duel at Shea Stadium. So when you're facing Doc Gooden in his signature year, where was your mind at? What was your strategy to outduel him?
I mean, the only time I'm facing Doc Gooden is in the ninth spot in the batting order every time through it. Beyond that, it's really myself against or not myself, but us against the Mets. And I mean, I'm not really trying to do anything different than I do any other time, which is not give up a run. I mean, I never go out there. I never went out to the mound once thinking that I want to give up a couple of runs today. I mean, I go out there with the intention of not giving up runs, and certainly Gooden had a hell of a year that year. He was outstanding, and you knew that if you gave up very many runs, you were going to have a pretty good chance to lose the game.
And you pretty much had to be just as good as he was that night, if not better.
Well, yeah, I mean, it turned out to be better because we won. So I mean, that was the bottom line, was to win the game. I don't care if it was 5-4 or 1-0, as it ended up being.
I know when you had faced him at the plate, what did you experience? What were your thoughts when you were watching Gooden pitch to you?
Again, I'm just trying to do my best to get on base or do whatever it is to help the team get a bunt down or whatever it might be. I had faced him prior to that when he was a rookie when I was with Pittsburgh, and he's, as I'm sure any other hitter would tell you, at that time of his career, he was not fun to hit off of.
Well, I'm sure, but where do you think... I'm so curious about this because you guys have won that game in the 10th with a Cesar Cedeno home run, but it was against Jesse Orozco. So, I mean, you went out there and you finished the game. I'm curious how you're able to go out there and finish the game as opposed to being taken out like Gooden was.
You know what? I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you. I don't know why Gooden came out. I don't remember if his at bat came up in the ninth inning, and he got pinch hit for. I can't remember exactly what the scenario was, why he came out of the game. It may have been he's a second year player in the big leagues, just a young kid. They probably didn't want to risk him, throwing, that 10th inning. Maybe he'd thrown a whole bunch of pitches. I don't know. For me, I was lucky in that my at bat did not come up in the 10th inning, so I was able to go out and complete it.
I know you later faced the Mets again September 30th, and you pitched them really well against Ron Darling, but you didn't pitch in the 11th, and that's when Ken Daly gave up that home run to Darryl Strawberry. So why do you think it was that you didn't pitch into the 11th in that game?
I don't know. Call Whitey and ask him. I don't know. I mean, these are questions I can't really answer.
All right, very well then.
Yeah.
But still, like, you had this great run, and you were 20-1, and the only pitcher you lost to at that time was Mariano Valenzuela, and you lost to Valenzuela again in Game 1 of the NLCS, but hey, the Game 4 of that championship series, you had no hitter through 5, you took a perfect game to the 5th inning, and the Cardinals won 12-2 with a 9-run second. How was John Tudor in Game 4 different from John Tudor in Game 1?
No idea. No idea. For one thing, 9 runs in the second inning makes you a better pitcher right off the get-go. So, beyond that, I have no clue.
You guys were down 2-0 in that series, and eventually you won the next 4. So besides Ozzie Smith hitting that walk-off home run against Tom Niedenfuer, what else stands out to you in that series as a defining moment? Would it be Jack's 3-run homer, Jack Clark, or what else do you think led the comeback from the 2-0 deficit besides just that home run from Ozzie Smith in Game 5?
Well, Jack's home run obviously was a big one in Game 6. So that was obviously a huge home run at that time. Beyond that, it was just, the other thing obviously that stands out is Vince Coleman getting hurt before the start of the series. So that was a big loss for us as well. Actually got hurt before that Game 4 start. We just battled. We came back to St. Louis down 2-0, and I think Herd fans, which I wasn't used to having come from Boston, Herd fans saying, we're not worried about them, they'll come back. It was kind of a different mindset than I was used to. I was, and I think it kind of gave you the incentive. Oh, geez, this is a different place. Let's see if we can get this done. And we're able to get it done. It just worked out. One of those things that everything kind of fell together, and we strung four wins in a row, and that was it.
Did you know what you were doing in Game 4?
I don't understand the question.
As far as when you were retiring the first 14 batters, and then eventually you walked Steve Yeager, and then I think you took a no-hitter into the 6th. Were you aware of all that at all?
Not that I recall. No.
Okay. Very well then. Darryl Porter had said before Game 1 of the World Series that you had never made mistakes, you put the ball where you wanted to, you were on the black all the time, and he said that you had the greatest changeup and the greatest arm motion on a changeup that he had ever seen. What was it like working with Darryl Porter? How did you guys bond together as a pitcher-catcher battery mate?
Darryl was fun to work with. Darryl was a veteran catcher at that time, and so he understood the game, and I appreciate those comments. I haven't seen or heard that before, but I certainly made my share of mistakes. But we were such a good defensive team that some of the mistakes that we made as pitchers didn't show up on the scoreboard because of our team defense, and none of us are perfect. We make our mistakes. Like I said, sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't.
What was different than in Game 4 against the Dodgers because it wasn't Darryl who was behind the plate, but rather Tom Nieto?
See, now you're telling me something I don't remember. I mean, I just kind of remember the game as a blur at this point. The biggest thing I remember about the game was getting a suicide bunt down in that second inning, I think. But beyond that, I don't remember that much about the game. Late in the game, I think it was a ninth inning. Bill Madlock hit a home run off me. But like I said, those are the two things that I really remember about the game.
Okay, very well then. If you don't remember, you don't remember. I know in Game 1 you were the winning pitcher of the World Series as well as Game 4. Game 1, Royal Stadium, I know that Steve Balboni drove in a run off you had scored Jim Sundberg. But later, you eventually calmed down and you got the win. How do you think you settled in Game 1?
Again, these you're going back too far for me to remember individual times in these games. I know we scored a couple of runs late, I think we won 3-1 or 4-1 or something. I don't even remember what the score was, to be honest with you. I don't know that I ever really settled in that particular day. I think I just kind of battled through it, and was lucky enough to get through whatever was my portion of the game, seventh inning. I think maybe I probably got pinch hit for in the seventh inning because it was a close game, I'm guessing. Or maybe not. Yeah, I probably got pinch hit for because we would have been. Did we even bat? I don't even remember. Like you said, I don't remember that much about it.
Game 4 was a masterpiece on your end. You faced only 33 batters. You had 8 strikeouts and a walk. What was working for you that night that you shut down the Royals and brought the Cardinals up 3-1?
I mean, just guessing, I would say that I had command of my fastball and changeup again. I think that was a 3-0 game or something like that.
Yes.
We were able to, we get a couple home runs. I think Tito and maybe Tommy Herr had home runs in that game. I don't remember exactly who did it. I'm pretty sure Tito did, but it's really kind of hard for me to remember individual games. Even though it's a World Series game, it was still kind of they kind of run together on me.
Yeah, Tito had a great postseason, and you mentioned earlier about Vince Coleman getting hurt, but it was Landrum who stepped up and took his place when Coleman got hurt.
Absolutely, yeah. And Tito did a tremendous job, but Tito was not Vince Coleman in that Vince was the catalyst of that offense. With his speed on the bases. I mean, he really disrupted, what pitchers and defenses were trying to do when he got on base, because they have a tendency to pitch to hitters differently with him on base than they did when nobody was on base, and losing him was a big loss for us. Tito stepped up and did a tremendous job, both offensively and defensively for us. But we still missed Vince.
Yes, but you guys had other offensive weapons too. Don't forget William McGee, who won the MVP that year and hit .353. So Vince Coleman might have been your table center, your leadoff guy, but also William McGee won the batting title and the MVP. So I'm sure he was a big offensive catalyst for you guys too. I'm sure.
Well, absolutely. I mean, everybody contributed. From Vince at the top of the lineup to maybe Darryl. I'm trying to think of who he even hit the 8th spot. You had Ozzie up there at the top of and Tommy Herr, drove in, I think, 110 runs with like 8 or 9 home runs, which is really pretty incredible. And, and then Tito and Terry Pendleton and, Jack Clark obviously had a great year, and it was a very good team. And we had, everybody will forget about Andy Van Slyke, who probably didn't light it up offensively, I don't think, that year, but defensively he was still Andy Van Slyke.
We all know the call now about George Orta being out in Game 6 when he was called safe by Don Denkinger. When you saw it live, was he safe or out in your view?
I've seen it live. No idea. I mean, you're 120 feet, 130 feet away from the base. I can't tell if Todd's foot is on or off the base from that distance. Obviously, you see it in replay, you see it in photos, and he's on. So. But I couldn't really tell from where I was, whether he was on or off.
I think Don Denkinger...
The ball certainly beat him.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I said the ball certainly beat him.
Yeah, I think Don Denkinger said that he judged the play based on what he heard and not what he saw, because sometimes umpires use their ears and not their eyes.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you're going to hear. First of all, on a flip from the first baseman to the pitcher, you're not going to hear contact with the glove and the ball. I mean, he can justify that, and I by no means blame Don Denkinger for us losing the '85 World Series, but he can justify it any way he wants to. But the call got missed.
So then, who do you blame then?
I blame myself, to be honest with you. I pitched like shit in Game 7 of the World Series, on the biggest stage of my life, and wasn't able to get the job done. So that's kind of where the blame falls as far as I'm concerned.
I know you had been 6-0 during the season on 3 days rest, and I think you were starting to feel the effects in your arm and maybe your shoulder between Game 4 and Game 7. What had happened then? Describe the symptoms that you were feeling at that point.
I'm not feeling any symptoms. I just didn't pitch well.
Okay, very well. I know that you had faced Darryl Motley, and he hit that 2-run homer. I know that you tried to go up and away, and then Motley hit it, and then it went foul, and then down the middle is when it went out. What was your perspective and your strategy when trying to face Darryl Motley in that at-bat?
My strategy was to get him out. That was basically the strategy. He had a home run on a fastball I was trying to get in, and didn't get it in.
I know that Whitey had taken you out after you had walked Jim Sundberg. What did he say to you when he went to go get you?
I don't remember.
Okay, I know that you had faced Brett Saberhagen in the top of the third, and Darryl Porter was out. It was a one-man out, and then you tried to lay down a bunt with 2 strikes, but that was strike 3. What was the reason for trying to lay down the bunt? To get on base, obviously, but I don't think that was your original plan to try to bunt against Saberhagen, so what led the approach for you to think that maybe that could work?
I don't remember the situation. If I was trying to bunt off Saberhagen with 2 strikes, it was probably a sacrifice. And the strategy in that standpoint would be I got a sign from the third base coach to tell me to bunt, and that's what I tried to do. I don't remember the play, though.
Okay, then very well then. Do you remember, though, about punching the electrical fan in the dugout, which led to 5 stitches?
I do remember that. I don't remember how many stitches there were. I'm glad you know.
Okay. I know you had said before Game 7 that you don't really show a lot of emotion out there on the mound, but it looked like there was something different watching you pitch in that 7th game on YouTube. I could see it in your eyes, I could see it in your face, that there definitely was some emotion there on your end.
Okay. Is there a question there?
Yes, how much emotion you had shown during that 7th game when you were pitching against the Royals, how much emotion you had felt?
No idea. I've never looked at it on YouTube.
Okay. You did have a very good 1986 season, but what was the recovery process for you like in January of 1987 when you had shoulder surgery?
Just recover, try and get back on the mound. I mean, that was the recovery process.
And when Barry Lyons slid into the dugouts and you were injured and you had to have a broken leg, what do you remember feeling at that point? What the impact was like? Because Barry Lyons was chasing the foul ball into the dugout against the Mets.
Yeah, I mean, just that. I mean, he chased the foul ball in the dugout. I was trying to protect him from sliding into the dugout, and we made pretty good contact, and I got hurt.
When you were facing Jeffrey Leonard, he was someone who really got under the Cardinals' skin, the Cardinals' fan skin. He hit
Cardinals what now?
The Cardinals' skin and the skin of the fans. I know that he hit 4 home runs in those first 4 games of 1987, the NLCS against the Giants, and there was definitely a brawl the year before in 1986. You struck him out in Game 6, and that was when the one flap down happened in Game 3. So what kind of taking did you have to Jeffrey Leonard when you were facing him and when you saw him facing you guys?
What was the last part of that question?
What kind of taking did you have to Jeffrey Leonard in that series?
Thinking?
Taking. How did you perceive him?
As a loud mouth, just kind of a showboat. Great player, good hitter, but someone that just tried to, if he made you look bad, he wanted to make sure you knew he made you look bad. And for me, that just wasn't the way the game's supposed to be played.
I know that he won the MVP despite being on the losing team, So, if you had to pick for a Cardinal to win the NLCS MVP in 1987, who would you have given it to him for that series?
Without looking back and without seeing all the stats, I don't have any idea. I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know who actually stood out. I know Danny pitched very well. Danny Cox pitched very well in Game 7 to close it out for us. I can't remember what his start prior to that looked like. So if he had won his start prior to that, maybe it would be him. Again, I don't know. I don't have those stats in front of me to know what happened.
Who would win a matchup between the 85 and 87 Cardinals?
Who would win a matchup between the 85 and 87 Cardinals?
Yes, in a hypothetical, if somehow those teams were to face each other, who do you think would win? Or who do you think was better?
I don't think they were that different. I think Van Slyke was gone, Porter was gone, Andujar was gone. But he wasn't. Andujar wasn't on the 87 team. I don't know, to be honest with it. Really, defensively and lineup-wise, they weren't that different.
When you started Game 1 of that 87 World Series, what were you thinking? Were you thinking to yourself, okay, now I can avenge myself from 2 years ago, here's my chance for redemption? What were the thoughts going through your head prior to Game 1 against the Twins?
I did not start.
Yeah, I stand corrected. Game 3, I'm sorry. Not Game 3, not Game 1. I stand corrected, sorry.
My thoughts were that we need to win. The Twins were a good team, and we had gone down, same as kind of we had with the Dodgers in '85. We had gone down 2 games in Minnesota, so we came back to St. Louis down 2 games, so we needed to win. I wasn't really thinking anything other than don't let them score, which is what my job is to start with. So it's really not that much different, except that, if we lost that game, we're down 3 games to none, and then really in deep trouble.
Yeah, I apologize for that. You started Game 3, not Game 1. My mistake. So, why do you think it was that the Cardinals couldn't win in Minnesota?
I don't know. I haven't got the faintest idea. I don't think I think we scored some runs in my Game 6 start. But we just had, we had, a few things that went wrong, and we had lost Jack Clark, so Clark wasn't playing, so he was a big loss for us. We lost Terry Pendleton from the I want to say the right side of the plate. I can't remember which side of the plate. He had a rib injury and couldn't swing from one side or the other. I don't remember which side it was. We didn't pitch particularly well in that series, with the exception of a couple of games at home. So it was, just one of those things that they pushed the right buttons. They had pretty good couple. Viola had 2 really good starts against us, and just kind of shut us down.
Who had the better bat flip, Tom Lawless or Jose Bautista?
I didn't see Bautista's bat flip. Lawless's was pretty good, though.
Okay. I know that Mike Rourke was your pitching coach, and when you were in Game 6, bottom of the 5th, you guys were up by 3 runs, I think, and then Don Baylor hit a 2-run shot with Giri Gaetti on second. What was your approach? Because Baylor homered off of you on the first pitch, so do you remember what you threw Don Baylor?
I don't think it was the first pitch. I know it was a fastball again that I was trying to get inside and didn't get inside. I do not believe it was the first pitch. I think it was probably a 2-1 pitch, or probably the 3rd or 4th pitch.
I know that you said that you blame yourself for what happened in 1985. How much, if any, do you blame yourself for what happened in 1987?
Equally. I had a chance to put it away, and didn't do it. I had a 3-run lead going into that inning, and just made a made a bad pitch in a bad situation, and the game got tied, and we ended up losing it.
And you'd be traded to the Dodgers in 1988 for Pedro Guerrero. And this is actually pretty shocking to you because the Tigers reportedly wanted the Dodgers wanted to trade Pedro Guerrero to the Tigers for Frank Tanana, and there are also rumors they might try to get Mike Flanagan from Toronto, but instead you went out there. So you had known next to nothing, but you did have a very good start in your debut as a complete game win over the Phillies. But you had a 1.40 ERA in your 4 starts before your debut for the Dodgers. So what do you credit to getting off the right foot in Dodger Stadium?
I mean, I just pitched a decent game. The first game was against the Phillies. The Phillies were always a team that, for whatever reason, that I always seemed to pitch well against. I mean, I went out there. I think I only had like 8 wins, but if I remember correctly, I was leading the National League in earned run average at that time. So I was pitching well, but we just weren't scoring very many runs in St. Louis that particular year, and so we didn't win some of the games maybe I should have won, but like I said, I don't even remember what the score of that game was, but I had basically come back to St. Louis from being home for a day, found out I was traded, was back when I was on a plane the next day to L.A. and pitched that night. So I didn't really have a whole lot of time to think about it.
Yes, you did have a very good season that year, and also great year for Oral Hershiser, too. And he did his streak, his 59 consecutive scoreless inning streak, when you were there. So what did you notice from him, and what did you guys all say to him? How was the rest of the team around him that year when he was doing his streak?
Well, I mean, you don't really say much to anything. You certainly don't say anything to anybody about a streak. I mean, that's just kind of unwritten. It's like telling somebody to throw in a no-hitter in the bottom of the ninth. But Oral was incredible that year. I think I got to see the whole streak. But he was pretty amazing, and I think the most amazing thing of that whole situation was that he broke Drysdale's record on the second to last day of the season. And in order for him to break that record, both pitchers had to throw 9 shutout innings in order for Oral to have a chance to throw the 10th in order for him to break Drysdale's record. So that's a really incredible little piece of information right there, not in itself, but he was obviously locked in, and Oral was a very good pitcher his whole career, until he hurt his arm, and then. He was fun to watch. I mean, it was a fun team. It was a good group of guys. I wasn't quite sure about it when I first got traded over there because I really loved playing in St. Louis. But going over there with Mike Marshall and Gibby and Mike Scioscia and Mickey Hatcher and Oral and some of the Jay Howell and the other pitchers, it was a very tightly knit group of guys, and they were on a mission, and it was fun to watch.
If someone had told you during your great 1985 season that you would help the Cardinals win the pennant in 1985 and 1987 and play a huge role in that, but they lose in 7 games both times, although you'd win a World Series with the Dodgers in 1988, but you wouldn't play a big role at all, what would you say to that person if they had told you that?
I don't know. No clue. I mean, I can't imagine it ever happening to start with. But I have no idea what I'd say to them.
Okay, I know that. How much did you guys really embrace the underdog label, and what did it take to win? Because I don't think you guys were supposed to win that series against the Mets or against Oakland.
Well, the Mets I think had dominated the Dodgers during the course of the regular season. I don't know if they played 14 times or 12 times. I think the Mets probably won 10 of them. And it was, it's just one of those things. That the old saying, that's why they play the game. You never know what can happen. And obviously the A's had the big boppers with McGuire and Canseco, and some pretty good pitching. Dave Stewart and Eckersley in relief. So. But like I said, that Dodger team was just destined from the first day when Gibson hit the home run off of Eckersley. That just kind of kind of set the wheels in motion, as they say.
What do you remember from that Game 3? Because you were taken out, even though you pitched well of the few batters you did face in Game 3, you pitched to Jose Canseco, and you started to feel pain. So what do you remember about that start?
I just remember hurting my elbow on that in that at bat to Canseco, and going back out there again to try and start the second inning, and facing McGuire, and then finally realizing that I wasn't doing myself or the Dodgers a favor by staying in this game, because I was kind of being selfish, trying to battle through it, when in reality I should have taken myself out of the game, which is what I ended up doing, because it obviously was an important game. We ended up losing it late in the game anyways, but for me to stay out there and try and get people out with the crap I had and my elbow hurting the way it was a mistake, and I realized that after McGuire.
Couple more questions before we go. There was an article from the LA Times in 1988 that said that you would retire after your contract was up in 1989. So what brought you back for the final year in 1990 in St. Louis when you were comeback player of the year that year?
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I don't know. Question one more time? I heard part of it, but I wasn't sure. I'm not exactly what the punchline was.
Yes, the 1988 article, the LA Times said that you would retire after your contract was up in 1989. But as we know, you finished your career in 1990 with a second stint with the Cardinals, and you were comeback player of the year. So what brought you back for your final year in 1990?
Well, I mean, I think just the fact that 89 had been, a difficult year to kind of sit around and watch everybody. I think my intentions were to retire after the 89 season, and then when 89 kind of went nowhere for me. I think I pitched like 11 innings or something like that. I decided that I wanted to try one more year to try and go out on a year where I actually played, instead of a year where I sat most of the year on the disabled list.
And finally, I know that you had seen the late Dr. Frank Jobe. You had undergone surgery with your shoulder and whatnot, and there's a huge epidemic now with Tommy John surgery in pitchers. I've talked to pitchers in college. They had the procedure done in college, in high school. It seems like not only is it happening in baseball more and more, but it's happening at earlier stages too, before they even reach and sign a professional contract. So what advice do you have to counter this epidemic, and what would you say to coaches, to pitchers, try to do their best so they don't have to have Tommy John surgery?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know how you prevent it. I don't even know what causes it, to be honest with you. I mean, I know what the end result is, but pitching is is for lack of a better term, a hazardous sport, a hazardous position. You put a lot of torque on your elbow and on your shoulder, and depending upon what kind of a high school coach or college coach or whatever you might have, if good pitchers have a tendency to get abused sometimes by these people, and that's unfortunate. We spend a lot of time trying to protect these kids at the Little League and younger levels, but yet once they get to high school and once they get to college, it's open season on them, and I think that something should be done at those levels, at the high school level and at the college level, to limit the amount of pitches these guys are throwing, or the amount of days they can throw consecutively, or amount of innings they can throw in a week, or whatever it might be.
John Tudor, thank you for your time, and thank you to the listener. I am Corey Stolzenbach. Until next time, have a good day, everybody.